Marcus Morris, get a second round pick. Um, Good or bad move for the Pistons?
It's a good move in the sense that you bring a guy like Avery Bradley in.
Yeah.
Avery Bradley is a guy that anyone would want on their team. It's a bad move in the sense that essentially you brought him in order to replace the best player on your team.
Right. The Pistons had the restricted free agent rights to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who was the best player on the Pistons team last year. They renounced his rights once they knew Avery Bradley was coming. So, let me put it this way for you. Basically, they flipped Marcus Morris and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for Avery Bradley's expiring contract.
Right.
Have the Pistons lost direction here?
I feel like maybe they have a little bit. I feel like the Pistons are in a spot where they're torn between either hitting the reset button and trying to trade away their players for assets and rebuild in the future, and trying to maintain the relatively young core they have right now and add the pieces they need in order to compete.
Yeah.
I want them to trade away Drummond and Jackson. I want them to try to get the assets and then restart.
This is certainly a negative move. The team is worse now.
And they will be worse in 2 years.
It might be a good move if Van Gundy's looking to blow it up, if that makes sense. Reggie Jackson gets a pass on last year because of injury problems. Andre Drummond does not for me. You talked last week about Andre Drummond being a good defender, and I can't believe I didn't catch it at the time because I think I would have refuted it. But I watched our stuff as I was editing it.
You studied the tape.
I was editing it again, and I'd like to refute it now. Andre Drummond is not good at defense, right? He's what we like to call a cosmetic defender. He looks like he should be able to do it.
You told me that you wanted to argue this point on the episode today. And I said, all right, I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to do my research, and I'm going to prove to him that Andre Drummond is a great defender. And I researched it, and I found that he's definitely not a great defender. His numbers don't back that up. His defense plus-minus isn't good. The team performs better with Aaron Baines on the floor.
He's a poor rim protector, and he has not figured out the pick and roll.
Right.
People think he's a good defender
because he has all the natural abilities that he needs to be a good defender.
He reminds you of Russell Westbrook, right?
Sure.
Russell Westbrook is a freak.
Athletically.
Yes. And when he really wants to, he can lock someone down for a 6-second dribble, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then if you actually watch Russell Westbrook, which is to say, you don't even have to watch him for a whole game. Just watch like a quarter. Watch him on defense for a quarter.
Watch 4 possessions.
And you see how many assignments he blows.
Yeah.
And I don't...
Especially against teams that really utilize switching and pick and rolls. And
he misses a lot of rotations and a lot of backdoor cuts. And he tends to cripple his defense a little bit with some of his gambles. Some of them turn out great, and he gets highlight dunks, and then we say, oh, he's awesome at defense.
Right. And he could be a great defender if he wanted to be.
It's the same thing with Drummond.
Yeah. Drummond, runs like a buck.
Dudes that big should not be able to slide their feet that well.
Right. And he shouldn't be able to jump that high and, just be that agile as he is. But he is.
Right.
And because of that, there's no excuse for how poorly he performs on practically every defensive stand that isn't him against a guy directly in the post, which really hasn't been the NBA style of basketball since the early 90s.
He can even do perimeter ISO sometimes because that's when he's locked in. It's either a feel thing or an intensity thing. There were too many plays last season when there was a ball handler going to the rim. Drummond's on the other side of the paint. It's his rim protection responsibility. He's also got his man on his back. But he's got corner help from the backside defender, and he just doesn't go. Right? So I don't know if that's intensity. I don't know if that's feel. I know Van Gundy on pick and rolls wants him to play drop coverage. He wants him to give up the mid-range jump shot.
Yeah.
Right? But oftentimes he just doesn't come out far enough where the guy's basically just taking a layup anyway. I don't know if that's intensity or feel. Feel can be learned. It can be taught. I don't know if intensity can, and that's where I'm worried.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how it develops down the road.
Yeah.
I would like to see the Pistons move him.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
He needs to be a better defender if he's a limited offensive contributor.
Exactly.
Anyway.
He needs to be elite on one side of the ball.
Fair. Totally fair. If you're going to make him the centerpiece. Along the lines of centerpieces, would you rather they blow it up and wait another 5 years to be relevant, or try to stick with his, current group and be a middle-of-the-road playoff team?
I think you have to blow it up. If you're a middle-of-the-road playoff team, you get stuck in what I like to call NBA purgatory, which is where you're an 8 seed, you get the pick of an 8 seed, he develops into a player who's a decent player on an 8 seed, and then the cycle repeats itself. The Hawks were an 8 seed or like an 8 through 6 seed for like 10 seasons in a row, if I remember. Like, that's not. I didn't research that.
And Jamal Crawford,
right, I didn't research that.
Joe Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't research that, so I don't know if my numbers are 100% correct. But they were a team where every year you'd get to the playoffs and you'd be like, oh, the Hawks made the playoffs.
I don't know if that's true, but it feels like it's true.
Right. Eventually, they kind of broke through that.
With a different group, though.
Right, with a different group of
with
players.
A totally different group.
Yeah. So I think the Pistons need a new group.
I would have said stick with this group before they let KCP walk. KCP is not going to be the best player on a championship team unless some drastic changes.
I think he could be the third best player on the
championship team. Could be the third best player.
Yeah.
And he was the best player on this team. Right? He was the only player that could shoot threes consistently.
He was the only player
that played defense consistently.
Yeah, I was about to say.
He's the only player that played with any sort of intensity consistently, which is alarming.
Yeah.
Right? For a team that was fighting to make the playoffs the whole year, he was the only one that looked like he was sweating.
Yeah.
And that's a little scary. Stan Van Gundy is trying to make Andre Drummond into Dwight Howard 2.0, and as gifted as Andre is, I don't know if that works anymore.
I agree with that statement, but I feel like, back to your intensity thing, I just want to make a quick comment on that.
Yeah.
The entire year, the whole Pistons thing was, we're so close, we're just 3 games out, but it never once felt that way. Even though the entire year we were just 2 or 3 games out of the playoffs, we even had the 8 seed position for a while. It never felt like we were in the playoffs. It never felt like we were a playoff team in just the way we played, watching them. Because I do watch the Pistons.
Yeah.
Because I am from Michigan. So.
Southeast Michigan.
Yeah.
I think letting KCP walk was a mistake.
Yeah, it was.
Especially with the way the game is going now. If you were going to keep one of those guys, I would have rather they kept Kentavious.
I would rather they kept KCP than anyone else on that team.
Yeah. It's hard to say, though. I mean, who would have thought 5 years ago if I told you Klay Thompson and Draymond Green were going to be 2 dynamic centerpieces on a championship team? Would you have believed me?
No.
No,
I wouldn't know.
No.
So I said Draymond Green is a Spartan, and he's awful. And
he was
God
a
hates
good
him.
player. He was good. I didn't think he was going to be this good.